I saw a man sitting under a tent on a college campus. I saw his body jolt. I saw a cold-blooded murder streamed live. That is not the time to talk about somebody's rhetoric and how much they may have pissed you off and how you didn't like what they had to say. I don't think that it's a fireable offense to say that you didn't like the guy. Now, I think it's fireable to say that he deserved what he got. That ain't the time and place to do something like that. The man just got murdered.
Joining me now is the host of Straight Shooter with Stephen A., the newest show right here on the POTUS channel. That joining us now is the host, Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A., great to have you. So what made you want to do a show on POTUS?
Well, listen, man, I've been talking about politics all my life. Certainly not from an aficionado's perspective, but I'm a conscientious observer. You know, I pay attention. I'm the youngest of 6. I have siblings and other family members that I've been arguing about as it pertains to social commentary issues, political issues, et cetera, all my life. And so the opportunity to do that really was exciting for me, not to mention the fact that it speaks to the absence of restrictions that I have at this point in time in my career, because as you well know, growing up in this business, writing for the New York Daily News, the Philadelphia Inquirer, working for CNNSI, Fox Sports, ESPN over the years, there certainly wasn't an inordinate amount of time during my career, spanning now plus 30 years, where I was very restricted from doing anything outside of the world of sports. So it really excites me that I have the opportunity to expand and to do the kind of and to touch on the things that I want to touch on.
Look, you're politically not that dissimilar from me. Political moderates, some issues you're more left, some issues you're more right. Yeah, I worry that there is not a place for political moderation, meaning I know there are a lot of people out there who are political moderates. I get super worried about the media environment that we live in that rewards saying crazy stuff on one side or the other.
Well, you're right in terms of being worried about those who reward folks who say crazy stuff on one side or the other. But we also, in terms of, you know, those of us who are moderates, we have to look in the mirror in terms of recognizing the fact that those who usually screech make the loudest noise. And we know that. So guess what? Screech louder. Screech just as loud as them. Get in their face with your moderate perspective. Be just as dogged in your approach to moderation as they are to extremism, and challenge them on that. Because again, you know, in the end, you know what, you don't play football with basketball rules, since my background is pretty much, you don't show up to a football game with basketball rules. You don't show up to a basketball game trying to score a touchdown. You got to play the game by the rules that are placed before you. And sometimes it takes doing that. In most instances, it takes doing that in order to provoke change. And I think that you have to be just as fiery and what have you, and doing and feeling what you're feeling, and just as unapologetic in your moderation in order to address it. I'll give you a perfect example of what I'm talking about. You have folks who are pro-life and you have folks who are pro-choice. And they have the audacity to come at me and say, how dare you be moderate? Well, wait a minute. I'm against abortion. That would be pro-life. But I'm totally against telling a woman what to do with her body. That would make me pro-choice. What's unreasonable about that? What's unreasonable about a man saying, I am not pro-abortion, but I am not for telling a woman what to do with her body? That is a very, very reasonable approach in my estimation. And somebody's not going to tell me that I'm devoid of principle and conviction because I happen to be moderate in my thinking in regards to that. I didn't say abortion was okay with me. What I said was, it's not for me to tell a woman what to do with her body. That's for her and God to decide.
But it's not devoid of principle. I just worry that, putting aside the fact that the majority of Americans agree with you on something like that with regard to abortion, you're starting this new media. You are like the king of all media at this point. And I remain concerned that going at people with moderation is like coming to a gunfight with a knife, right? It's basically, they're willing to say, they're passionate about, I'm sorry, but that is not a pro-life position, or that is not enough of a pro-choice position, or whatever it is. And you're coming back, I'm coming back very often and saying, Well, hang on. Just hear me out. And then I got to explain to them the nuance, and I got to have them hear the whole thing. It's just a heck of a lot easier in the media world we live in to just pick a side, and that is depressing.
Well, first of all, Dan, don't get depressed.
I won't. I won't really get depressed, but it's depressing.
You're in shape. You look good. You're strong. You're ready to fight, and not back down to that kind of nonsense. Yeah. That somebody's telling you is their monolithic point of view, and no matter how dogged they are, is absolutely correct. Just because they come at you with more fire, fight fire with fire. I know I'm not backing up, and I'm not of the mindset that, these folks have an audience, they have people there to support them, so I got to back down. Well, guess what? Like you said, I've established myself in this kind of stratosphere. I got my own audience. I got my own cachet. I got my own muscle. You want to swing, I'm going to swing back. It's no problem for me. Let's get it on. If that's what it takes, that's what it takes. And what exactly are you going to bring to the table if you're dogged in your approach towards extremism that's going to hurt me exactly? I'm trying to be fair. I'm trying to take all things into consideration. I'm trying to be humane. I'm not trying to ostracize anybody. And so when I look at it from that standpoint, my position from a moral perspective, from an ethical perspective, from a sensible perspective, I think has more solid ground than they do. And I dare say, as you just articulated, our audience from a moderate perspective is bigger than theirs. So let's get it on.
Amen, Stephen A. Amen. I'm with you.
Let's go.
This is why POTUS is the right channel for you. Just FYI. All right, let's talk about some specifics here.
Sure.
You've been denouncing the people who've celebrated the death of Charlie Kirk, as have I. I am concerned, though, about now the cancel culture that's coming into play. And what I mean by that is not people who are literally celebrating his death. Meaning, if you work at Delta or American Airlines and you're out there celebrating Charlie Kirk's death, I get it. I get why you're going to get fired. But I'm asking about all the other people who are saying things like, I hated Charlie Kirk, or Charlie Kirk was a terrible guy, or this or that. And then you have these groups who are now organized who are trying to get people fired from their jobs from saying that. You got a problem with that?
I have a problem with people getting fired over having factual opinions that the guilt evolves around the fact that it was untimely, that the timing was inappropriate. I did not know anything about Charlie Kirk. I did not. I've heard of Turning Point USA, but I didn't pay any attention to him or the things that he had to say. I saw him during the Republican National Convention when he was walking around with Trump, and they talked about how he was a guy largely responsible for bringing the young voters out to support Trump. I heard those things, but I didn't listen to the things that he spewed. Then I have people in my community calling me a sellout and other insulting things because they pointed out some of the things that they felt he said that was incredibly insulting and denigrating to and about Black people. I didn't know those things. My point to them was I didn't need to know them to know those things in order to have the perspective that I had, which was simply this. I saw a man sitting under a tent on a college campus with his 1-year-old and 3-year-old, along with his wife in attendance. I saw his body jolt, then collapse while he was sitting in a chair, and blood gushing out the left side of his neck. I saw a cold-blooded murder streamed live. To me, at that particular moment in time, that is not the time to talk about somebody's rhetoric and how much they may have pissed you off and how you didn't like what they had to say.
And if they do that, right? So let's assume you think they shouldn't do it, but let's assume that they do it. Is it okay for them to be fired from their jobs, to be?
No, I don't think if you're factually correct about what he was saying and how insulting it was to you, that it's a fireable offense to say that you didn't like the guy. Now, I think it's fireable to say that he deserved what he got.
Right.
I think it's fireable. I think it's fireable to celebrate his killing, his murder. I think that's fireable. But if you're saying what happened to him is horrific, it's unfortunate, it should never happen in our society, but in the same breath, you know what? these are the kind of things that he said that fomented hate, and this may have played a role in why it happened. That happens to be factually correct based on what we have learned in terms of the emails that the assailant is seen to have articulated to his roommate, if I remember correctly, where he talked about his hate for Charlie Kirk is why he did it. Now, again, you shouldn't bring that up at that particular moment in time. And I think somebody that's not wise enough to be sensitive enough to us from a societal perspective has no business on the air at that particular moment in time. You suspend them, you give them a warning, you say that better not ever happen again. But as long as they weren't celebrating his murder, his killing, then, you know, it might be a bit extreme to fire them because they didn't wait a week or two to bring up things that we've now learned were factual.
Right. We're talking, of course, to Stephen A. Smith, who's got a new show here on the POTUS channel. But let me ask you this. I mean, you're right when it comes to high profile figures, right? I expect and apply a higher standard to myself, to you, to other people who are in the media. If I say something that is incredibly offensive or stupid or actionable, I'm going to have to deal with it. I'm either going to have to apologize. I'm going to get fired. I'm going to whatever. And that's part of the game.
But you said stupid and non-factual. You didn't say something that's factually correct, but was inappropriate to say at a time.
Well,
that's
even that
category. That's
even that.
Category.
Well, look, that's
that
why
is a different category.
That's why Matt Dowd got fired at MSNBC.
And I'm not saying he should have got fired. I don't think he should have got fired. I think he should have been suspended. And they should have said to reiterate to him, that ain't the time and place to do something like that. The man just got murdered, and we certainly don't want to come across as we're condoning murder in our country, in this law of land. We don't want that here. We don't want that kind of life here. This is not a third world country. This is not a communist. I shouldn't say communist nation. This is not one of those nations that allow stuff like that. We don't want that here. It's certainly all right to say that to him and take him off the air for a little while, but to fire him when he's pointing out some of the things that this man has said that fomented hate. Well, that's what the assailant, the killer, ultimately said provoked him. So at least that's what he was thinking, and that's where it comes from.
Yeah. So look, I think when it comes to not firing these people, we're relatively on the same page. Because look, I've always hated the cancel culture stuff, right? I hated it when the right was talking about it. I was with them, right? I was with them about all these people being canceled for saying something. And you know, it's interesting because I'm now reading a bunch of, and I talked about this on my show yesterday, that people are defining, some people on the far right are defining cancel culture now as just coming from the left. It can't come from the right. It has to be about woke. And the bottom line is cancel culture is just a culture where you want people to get fired, have their lives ended. Well, not their lives ended, their careers ended.
Trump is proving that cancel culture exists on the right. Look what he's trying to do to everybody that disagrees with him. He's a walking embodiment of hypocrisy when it comes to that. I'm talking specifically as it comes to the whole woke culture thing. Anybody who disagrees with him, who disagrees with his position that he may take on a bevy of issues, he's ready to get them put out of there. Okay? That's cancel culture. That's cancel culture. When we say something or do something that somebody doesn't like and they believe that should cost you your living, the living that you earn for yourself, what enables you to pay your rent or your mortgage. You understand? To put food on your plate for yourself and your family, a roof over your head. You're willing to compromise their ability to do that for themselves just because you don't approve of what they've said or done. That has been Trump every bit as much as it has been the woke culture. The problem is Trump could use the left as an excuse for justifying doing it because they went out of their way to do it for so many times over so many years when they were in a position of power, including going after him. That's why he's engaging in lawfare right now, using, whether it's the DOJ, whether it's the FBI. I mean, he's empowering law enforcement agencies because that's what was done to him. And he's almost unapologetic about it.
Right. But he's going way further, I think. But anyway, I'm almost out of time here. What do you think about Trump sending the National Guard into Memphis?
Don't like it. Wes Moore, the governor of Maryland, said it best to me a couple of weeks ago when I interviewed him. He said, I am the commander-in-chief of the state of Maryland. I decide what the National Guard is going to do in this state, not the president.
But in Tennessee, the governor's saying, bring it on.
Well, if the governor gives the government gives the okay to bring it on, well, then I don't have a problem with it because again, what you're talking about is you're following our Constitution and you're following the laws, and you're saying crime is a huge, huge problem in this city. We need it addressed, and we need to do everything that we can to diminish the amount of crime that's going. As long as the governor, who's in charge of a respective state, signs off on it, and the president is not usurping the state's authority to do something, then I'm not going to complain about it, because they're following the laws in our land. Taking
away my legal analyst role here. Final question. You got booed at a big fight this week. Do you care when people boo you?
Not even a little bit. I could care less. Because listen, the same people that boo me are the same people that's coming up to me to ask me for my autograph.
Yeah, exactly.
And their family and all of that other stuff. I get heckled all the time. It's all in fun. And when it comes to sports, it's all in fun. Now, if it was something different, particularly with what I'm going to be doing on POTUS radio, then that's a different animal altogether, because that's something I'm going to take with an elevated level of sensitivity and seriousness. But in terms of sports, you might have why should a Dallas Cowboy fan cheer for me? Why should somebody that's going up against the Knicks cheer for me? Why should somebody that's going up against the Yankees cheer for me? Why? Well, considering that I have a platform where I'm going at teams every single day, because I do a 2-hour sports debate show every weekday morning on ESPN at 10 a.m. called First Take. Of course, you're going to have problems with what I say from time to time. But in the end, I would tell you, 9 out of 10 people show me nothing but love, and it's beautiful, and it all comes with sports.
He has literally become one of the most influential figures in all of media. Stephen A. Smith now has a show on POTUS, Straight Shooter with Stephen A., 6 p.m. on Wednesday nights. Stephen A., welcome to POTUS. We are thrilled to have you.
Dan, I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. Take care.